Brachos Daf Chavches. The Gemara continues relating the story of Rabban Gamliel and how he appeased Rabbi Yeshua and was reinstated as the Nasi. Then the Gemara goes back to the Mishnah and discusses the halacha of the latest time for Musaf. When is the latest, and what about somebody who waits until after the Zman? Then the Gemara along the way refers to the halacha of eating before Mincha, eating before Musaf. The Gemara brings a new Mishnah which speaks about the tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakana on the way into the Beis Medrash, on the way out of the Beis Medrash. The Gemara afterwards has incidents of Talmidim who went to visit their Rabbeim as they lay dying. Another Mishnah discusses the halachos of Shemona Esrei and when it should be said. In general, the structure of Shemona Esrei, and then the Gemara will discuss the source for Shemona Esrei and how come it's 19 brachos now instead of 8. Let us see what the Gemara says as it continues to relate the events that happened on the day that Rabban Gamliel was removed from being the Nasi in the Beis Medrash. The Gemara says that Rabban Gamliel had a rule that not everybody's allowed into the Beis Medrash. It's only those that are, their insides are similar to their outsides. They're not pretending externally to be one thing, and on the inside they're not on the level that they claim to be on the outside. But as soon as he was removed from the position of Nasi, the watchman at the door of the Beis Medrash was removed, and everybody was allowed in. So the Gemara says, on that day, hundreds of Talmid Chachamim were allowed into the Beis Medrash that were not allowed there before. The Gemara has a machlokas, how many rows of chairs were added to the Beis Medrash, either 400 or 700. The Gemara says Rabban Gamliel was very upset when he saw this. He was afraid that maybe he made a mistake with his policy of exclusion of those who aren't the same on the inside and the outside. And maybe he said, I caused the Torah to be withheld from Klal Yisrael. So he was shown in a dream white containers filled with ashes. So the message for him was that these people that are entering the Beis Medrash now are not fitting to be there. They may be white on the outside, but they're black and ash on the inside. The Gemara says, but it wasn't true. That message was given to him to calm him and to appease him, but the truth is that the people that were allowed into the Beis Medrash now were befitting to be there and they deserve to be there. So the Gemara continues and says, because of the many Talmid Chachamim that were added to the Beis Medrash, then they were able to resolve all shailas, all sveikas, all questions that were unresolved up till then, and on that day in the Beis Medrash they solved all the problems that were facing them. The Gemara says, anytime you find the words Boi Bayoim on that day across Shas, it's referring to the day that Rabban Gamliel was removed and all the Talmid Chachamim were allowed into the Beis Medrash. The Gemara says the entire Maseches Idios, which lists all the Mishnayos that were on the highest level, were all taught on that day. The Gemara records an incident that happened there. The Gemara says Rabban Gamliel himself was glued to the Beis Medrash because of all the fascinating things that were happening then, and a person named Yehuda, who was from the country of Ammon, came to the Beis Medrash and asked if he's allowed to marry a regular Jew. He was converted, but he was from Ammon, and the halacha is, the pasuk says, La Yovei Ammoni Umeyavi Bekal Hashem, and Ammoni is not allowed to join the nation of Hashem. So he came and he asked, and Rabban Gamliel said, of course, you're not allowed to. It's explicitly clear in the pasuk. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yeshua said to him, you are allowed to. Rabban Gamliel says, what do you mean? It says, Lo Yovei Ammoni Umeyavi Bekal Hashem. Rabbi Yeshua said, okay, but the people who live in Ammon now are not Ammoni. All the nations were mixed up and moved around by Sancherif. So he's not necessarily from Ammon anymore. It could be from anywhere in the world. And the rule is that somebody who leaves a mixture, we assume that he is from the majority of the mixture. And the majority of the world are not Ammonim. Gamliel said back, what do you mean? But Hashem said in Yeshaya, I'm going to return Bnei Ammon. And I think that happened already. Rabbi Yeshua said, but Hashem also said, Yisrael, I'm going to return Klal Yisrael. That didn't happen yet. And just as Klal Yisrael hasn't been returned yet, Ammon hasn't been returned yet. So they allowed him to marry into Klal Yisrael. Well, when Rabban Gamliel saw what was happening, he decided that he has to go and make up with Rabbi Yeshua. He has to go and apologize. So he went to Rabbi Yeshua's house, and when he arrived at the house, he saw that the walls were blackened. He said to him, you can tell from your house that you are a coal maker. So Rabbi Yeshua said, woe is to the generation that has you as their leader, because you are not sensitive to the respect of Talmid Chacham. So Rabbi Gamliel said, I'm sorry I offended you too much. I said too much against you. Please be moichel me. I apologize. and Rabbi Yeshua did not want to. He did not listen to him. So Rabbi Gamliel said, please, for the sake of the honor of my father, please be appeased. And then Rabbi Yeshua agreed. So now that Rabbi Yeshua had agreed, it was time to reinstate Rabban Gamliel as the Nasi. So they said to each other, who's going to be the one to go tell the Rabbanan in the Beis Medrash that Rabban Yeshua was appeased and Rabban Gamliel can be reinstated. So there was a washerman there, and the washerman said, I'll go. So Rabbi Yeshua told the laundry man to deliver the following message to the Chachamim. Tell them, he who is accustomed to wearing the cloak should again wear the cloak. Does it make sense that he who is not accustomed to wearing the cloak should tell the person who is accustomed to wearing the cloak, give me the cloak and I'm going to wear it? Meaning of the message was that Rabban Gamliel, who is used to wearing the mantle of leadership of Nesius, should again be restored to it, and the one who just usurped it should not tell him that you don't deserve to continue holding it. So the Gemara records that the laundryman went, but he was not allowed in, because Rabbi Kiva had told the Chachamim lock the door so that this servant of Rabban Gamliel should not come to bother us. So Rabbi Yeshua saw that he himself has to go, so he went and he told the Chachamim as follows. He said, he who is a sprinkler, the son of a sprinkler, should do the sprinkling. He's referring to the Kohanim who did the Avodah of sprinkling the water of the paraduma mixed with the ashes of the paraduma. Now Kohanim have to be descended from Kohanim. So Rabban Gamliel meant to say that, so Rabbi Yeshua's message was that Rabban Gamliel, who is a Nasi coming from generations of Nasim, should be the one to take the role. It makes no sense, he said, that the one who is not accustomed to sprinkling, he is not a sprinkler, not descended from a sprinkler, should tell the one who is that your water is no good, your mechatas, your paraduma water is not kosher, it's water from a mikvah, and that your ash is not ash of a paraduma, it's ash of a stick. He is not in a position to tell Rabban Gamliel that he should not be the Nasi or not. So therefore, the Nasir should be reinstated to Rabban Gamliel. That was Rabbi Yeshua's message. So the Gemara records Rabbi Akiva said to Rabbi Yeshua, have you accepted this apology? Because the only reason why we removed Rabban Gamliel is for your kavod. But if you've accepted, then he can be restored. So he said, yes. And tomorrow you and I should go to his door to give him the message that he's restored. So the Gemara wanted to know, the Chachamim wanted to know, what should we do with Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah? You can't remove him. It says we go up in holiness. We cannot lower somebody in holiness. So maybe they should switch off. One should do 1 week, one should do the other week. So the Gemara was afraid that would bring to undue competition between the Chachamim. So they decided that Rabban Gamliel would say the drasha 3 weeks, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah would say 1 week. And that's why you find elsewhere in Shas, in Chagiga, the Gemara asks, whose week was it? The Gemara ends off the incident by recording that the Talmud, who started the whole thing by asking the question about whether Ma'ariv was obligatory or optional, was none other than Rav Shimon ben Yochai. The Gemara now moves on to discuss the next phrase in the Mishnah, which concerns how long in the day one may still say Musaf. We had said that it was a machlekes between the Chachamim who say all day and Rabbi Yehuda who says only until the 7th hour and including it. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yechanan said that anybody who misses the 7th hour is considered to be a posheya. He's a sinner. The Gemara brings the machlokes about somebody who has a opportunity to say mincha and musaf at the same time. He has to say the two of them. The question is, which one should he say first? So the Rabbanan had said he should say mincha first because it is more frequently said, and Rabbi Yehuda said he should say musaf first because the time is passing and he may miss it. So what is the halacha there? The Gemara says that Rabbi Yechanan said the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. A person should daven mincha before musaf in a case like that. Rabbi Zeira, the Gemara says, once got sick. He was weak from exerting himself in his learning. He wasn't able to learn, so he went and he sat at the entrance to the yeshiva of Rabbi Nosson bar Taivi. The plan was that he would sit there, and then whenever one of the Chachamim would pass by on the way in or out of the yeshiva, he would be able to stand up for them. So like this, he would get schar, get reward for learning, even though he wasn't able to learn himself. So then Rabbi Nosson bar Taivi passed, and he asked him, he said, what did they say in the Beis Medrash? So they said that the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan says the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. A person should say mincha and not musaf. If he has the opportunity to say one or the other, the first one he should say is mincha. So Rabbi Zeira said to him, they said that in the name of Rabbi Yochanan? It was Rabbi Yochanan who said that? So he said, yeah, it was Rabbi Yechanan. So on the spot, Rabbi Zera Chazard, he reviewed this halacha, and it was in the name of Rabbi Yochanan 40 times. So Rabbi Nassan said to him, why is it so special to you? Is it because this is the only halacha that you heard from Rabbi Yochanan, or is it just you used to think that it was somebody else? So he said, I always thought it was Rishua ben Levi who said that. Now you're telling me a new thing. It's Rabbi Yochanan who said that, so I'm working on remembering it. Now the Gemara quotes Rabbi Rishua ben Levi, who says that anybody who misses the 7th hour for saying Musaf, he misses Rabbi Yehuda's Shita, the Torah says about him, Noige mi moyed asafti mimech. Noige is a word which the Gemara will define soon, but it's a negative statement, and it's mimoyed, it's because of times. It's because of the time. He missed the time, so we say about him, Noige. The Gemara says, what does Noige mean? Rabbi Yosef says it means broken. And he brings a proof from a pasuk. Rabbi Elazar says, Noige means pain. And the psukim that prove that are Delfa Nafshi Mituga. And Rav Nachman says the pasuk is B'zuleseha Noigois V'hi Marla. The Gemara now reports on an incident. Rav Avio was weak and he was not able to come to Rav Yosef's shir in the yeshiva on Shabbos, the drasha after Musaf. And Rav Yosef was apparently upset, so his Talmud Abaye wanted to make him feel more at ease with it. So he went and he asked Rav Avio why didn't he come to the shir. Rav Avio said, I wasn't feeling well. I wasn't able to. So Abaye said, why don't you eat something, and then you will feel stronger, and then you'll be able to come. So he said, what do you mean? Rav Huna says you're not allowed to eat before Musaf. He said, okay, so you should have davened Musaf early, before the tzibur, then eat it, and then come to shul. She said, what do you mean? Rav Yochanan says you're not allowed to daven Musaf, or any tefillah, before the tzibur davens. So he said, that's only if you're in shul where the tzibur is, you're not allowed to speed up and be mispalel earlier. But if you're at home, then you would be able to. The Gemara says that the halacha is not like the statement of Rav Huna and not like the statement of Rav Yeshua ben Levi. Rav Huna said you're not allowed to eat before Musaf, and Rav Yeshua ben Levi said you're not allowed to eat before Mincha if the time is upon you. And the halacha is not like either of them. One is allowed to eat before Musaf and before Mincha, even if the time for those tefillahs have arrived. Now we have a new Mishnah which discusses the tefillah of Rabbi Nechunya ben Hakana, that he was mispala on his way into the Beis Medrash and he was mispala on his way out of the Beis Medrash. The Mishnah says they asked him, what is this tefillah about? And he said, on the way into the Beis Medrash, I ask Hashem that I shouldn't make a mistake in halacha, and on my way out, I thank him for my chelik in learning. The Gemara brings a brisa that quotes the full text of the tefillah. It says as follows: on the way into the Beis Medrash, he said, Hashem, may it be your will that I shouldn't make any mistake, and I should not stumble or fail in a matter of halacha, and my chaverim should be happy with me, I should be happy with them. I shouldn't say that something tahar is tameh, something tahar is tameh. My friends, my chaverim, my colleagues should not make any mistake in a dvar halacha, and I should be happy with them. Then on his way out of the Beis Medrash, what did he say? He said, thank you, Hashem, Alokai, that you placed my portion amongst those who sit in the Beis Medrash and not amongst those who sit in corners. I get up early, they get up early, I get up early for Torah, they get up early for nonsense. I work, they work. I work and I get real schar, they work and they don't get schar. I run and they run. I run to Chayim Haba and they run to the netherworld pit. The Gemara now records two incidents where Talmidim went to visit Talmidei Chachamim who lay on their deathbeds. The Gemara says when Rabbi Eliezer was sick, his Talmidim went to visit him and they said, Rebbe, teach us the way of life so we should be able to be zeiche to the world to come. So he said to them the following: be careful with the honor of your friend. Keep your children away from learning too much Chumash. They should be learning Gemara more. Let them sit between the knees of Talmidei Chachamim, and when you are being mispalel tefillah, know before whom you're standing, and with this you'll be zeiche to Chayam Haba, life in the next world. Second incident, when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was sick, the Talmidim came to visit him, and they saw him, and he saw them. He began to cry. They said to him, Rebbe, light of Israel, pillar on the right, strong hammer, why are you crying? He said to them, if I was only going to judgment before a king of flesh and blood, wouldn't I cry? And his judgment, what's it worth? He's here today, tomorrow he's in the grave. If he's angry at me, his anger doesn't last forever. If he locks me up, his imprisonment doesn't last forever. If he kills me, that death doesn't last forever. and I can bribe him, and I can talk him out of whatever he wants to do. But I cried before him before that day anyway. So now that they're taking me before the King of all kings, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is Chai V'Kayim, lives eternally, forever and ever. And if he is upset with me, his anger is forever. And if he imprisons me, that imprisonment is forever. And if he decides to kill me, that death is forever. And I can't talk him out of anything, and I can't bribe him. I have two paths in front of me. I don't know which one I'm going on. One goes to Gan Eden, one goes to Gehenna. I shouldn't cry. So they said to him, Rabbeinu, give us a bracha. He said to them, may it be Hashem's will that your fear of heaven should be as strong as your fear of flesh and blood. They said to him, that's it? Only strong as fear of flesh and blood? He said, oh, halavai, it should be that strong. When a person is about to do an Aveira, his number one concern is that people shouldn't see him, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu shouldn't see him. He's not worried. Gemara records that as his soul left him, he said to them, remove all the kalim from the room because it will become tamei, and bring a chair. Chizkiyahu, the king of Yehuda, has come to escort me. Now we get to a new Mishnah which discusses Shemoneh Esrei. The Mishnah says, Rabban Gamliel says, every day a person should say Shemoneh Esrei, 18 brachos long. Rabbi Yeshua says, doesn't have to say all 18. You should say something that contains the context of all 18, perhaps in a shortened version. Rabbi Kiva says it depends. If he knows the text well, it flows in his mouth, then he should say all 18. And if not, he should say a shortened version. Rabbi Elazar says, somebody who makes his tefillah like a weight upon him that he's trying to get over with, that doesn't count as tachnunim, that doesn't count as beseeching HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi Yeshua says, somebody who is traveling from place to place should have a shortened version. Is what he should say. Hashem should save your people, the remnant of Yisrael, in all Parshas Ha'avor. The Gemara will explain what that means. It's a reference to times when Klal Yisrael are doing things wrong. But even at that time, may their needs be before you, Baruch Atah Hashem, who hears tefillah. Now, if he's riding on a chamar, on any kind of animal, especially a donkey, he should come off and he should be mispal standing on the ground. If he can't go off, Rashi says because he doesn't have anybody to hold the donkey for him, he should turn his face towards Yerushalayim. If he can't turn his face, he should turn his heart towards Yerushalayim, towards the Kodshei HaKadoshim. If he was on a boat, or he was on a raft, or his legs were in prison irons, then he should also turn his heart towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Gemara begins and discusses the source for this Tefillah of Shemoneh Esrei and its 18 brachos. So the Gemara says, where is this from, the number 18? So a few different opinions here. Hillel, son of Rabbi Shmuel ben Achmeni, says it's to parallel the 18 times Hashem's name is mentioned in Tehillim Perek Chaf Tes, which Rashi explains is parallel to the structure of Shemoneh Esrei. Rav Yosef says that it's Keneged the 18 times Hashem's name is mentioned in Shema. Rav Tanchum says in Rabbi Shua ben Levi, it's the 18 bones of the spine, the vertebrae that are visible through the skin. Now the Gemara says, somebody who's going to bow down during Shemoneh Esrei, how far does he need to bow? Rav Tanchum, again, says neighbor of Yeshua ben Levi, has to go so far that the knobs on the spine are visible through the skin. Ula says that the flesh of his chest should fold into two fingers, two folds. Rabbi Chanina says, as long as he bends his head down, that's enough, but Rava says that's only if he's trying to bend further, and it's clear that he's trying to, but he's unable to. The Gemara now asks, why do we call it Shemoneh Esrei, which means 18 brachos? There are 19. The Gemara says because there was a 19th added by the Chachamim in Yavne at a much later stage. That was V'lam al Shinim, which is a bracha against the Tzedukim. So the Gemara wants to know, where does this fit into the three explanations of where the number 18 comes from before? So the Gemara says, well, according to the explanation that it's the names of Hashem in Tehillim Chaf Tes, there's an additional name, which is not really a name, where it says Kel, Aleph Lamed. And according to the opinion that it's connected the 18 times that Hashem's name is mentioned in Shema, so this is for the word Echad, which also refers to Hashem. And according to the opinion that's for the 18 bones of the vertebrae, the 18 vertebrae of the spine, this is connected the small one at the end of the spine, which is not a real vertebrae, but it is there as well.